So for the council roundup, a lot of focus was about debt forgiveness, an ordinance that would have allowed for different stages of when liens could be placed to collect debt or not. And that was, $25,000 for CWLP, and then the threshold would go up to $50,000 for the mayor, and then it would be $50,000 plus one for the city council to get involved. The reason for this is because city council was not involved in a public fashion in dealing with a significant debt at the utility when it comes to fees, not necessarily for the power generation, but just fees. But it was a $240,000, so almost $250,000 that was forgiven, and it was done unilaterally. Well, they talked about that. They kept the ordinance in committee. Apparently, we're going to hear a lot more about the Windham City Center and new proposal to get tax dollars for a project to deal with apartments and hotel rooms in the Windham City Center. So we'll hear a lot more about that. But to the issue of debt forgiveness, and is it being done unilaterally at the City Hall? Joining us now in studio is Illinois Times reporter Scott Reeder, who broke the story about the executive session that happened back in November of 2021, months before the debt was forgiven for the Windham City Center. Scott, you've actually stumbled upon even more debt that's being forgiven.
Well, that's right. It was interesting. When I found out about the Windham situation, I decided, why don't I file a Freedom of Information Act request for everybody who got their debt forgiven by the city in 2022. And I get a response that, with hundreds of line items on it, but they won't give me the names of the people whose debt was forgiven. I'm like, this is crazy. They're doing business with government. I mean, this is clearly public record in my mind, at least. And I thought, that old Shakespeare's line, she protests too much. I mean, it's like, why are they getting so uptight about not releasing these names? So we're kind of doing some shoe leather reporting, and I get a tip on one of the people's names that's on that list. And in the meantime, we filed a lawsuit to get the names. It'll probably be about 2 months before a judge rules on it, so it'll be after the election. But I got a tip that one of the names was an attorney locally by the name of George Petrelli, who ran for the city council at one point, also ran for Congress at one point. He owned a house in the Enos Park neighborhood. It came from the land bank. It was a dilapidated house that he promised to rehabilitate 11 years ago, and it indicated that he was going to move into. And the rehabilitation has been, at the very least, very slow. And over that time period, he collected over $46,000 in fines from the city for failure to maintain the property. And anyway, I got a tip about this, be on the list. So after church on Sunday, I just knocked on his door and said, he lives out by Leland Grove, Illini Country Club, and I said, hey, can you tell me anything about this debt that was forgiven here? I'm told you had $42,000 forgiven. And he goes, oh, yeah. Well, the thing was I got it up to code, and I had got an occupancy permit, and I negotiated with the Corporation Council, and they forgave $42,000 of debt on this. And I thought, okay. So then I called, I thought, well, that's interesting. But then I noticed that he'd also donated $2,500 to Mayor Langfelder's campaign. I thought,
you had already said this guy's a political guy. He ran for alderman. He ran for Congress. He's obviously got some political connections. And just doing a little bit of shoe leather reporting, and I gotta, you're working on a Sunday, Scott. Come on, you're after church, you're going and hitting the streets to get sourcing. I mean, that's valuable reporting right there. But regardless, cross-referencing him with political donations and seeing this, tell us more. I mean, this is pretty incredible.
So I go, okay. So then I check on the tax rolls. Even though had $2,500 to give to the mayor, he hasn't paid the taxes on the property in question, or at least all of them. He owes over $1,000 in back taxes on it. Well, that's odd. And then he said he got the building up to code and got an occupancy permit. So I just double-checked by calling the inspections department. And I talked to this young man by the name of Brian Green. He works over there. And I said, hey, Brian, do you have an occupancy permit on this? And he pulls it up on his the address up on his computer, and he goes, well, this doesn't make any sense what I'm seeing here on my computer screen. I've never seen anything like this. Let me get back to you tomorrow, which was yesterday. So he calls me back, and he says, well, here's the deal, Scott. An occupancy permit was issued, but we couldn't find on the computer system, and maybe it was a glitch when we moved from system to system or whatever, but we couldn't find any of the underlying building permits that were issued that would have been issued to bring the different things that were in violation up to code. So he's like, how can you get an occupancy permit if you don't have the permits to do the things that needed to be done? So he said, so Scott, we just sent it and thought, I showed it to my supervisor and she agreed it looked weird. So just to be on the safe side, she said, we sent out a inspector Tuesday morning and to make sure the property was up to snuff. And the inspector that morning looked at it and said, no, this isn't fit for human habitation, and pulled the occupancy permit for it.
Unbelievable.
So we have basically this situation where this guy who gave $2,500 to Mayor Langfelder's campaign and previously had gotten $42,000 forgiven by the city for purportedly bringing this dilapidated property up to code. Now, apparently the property is viewed as not being up to code, and the occupancy permit has apparently been pulled.
Scott Reeder, he's a reporter for Illinois Times. You can find his report today in the Illinois Times, free on newsstands. I don't think this is the last we're going to hear about this. Is that safe to say? I mean, you've got FOIA requests, you've got some litigation to get information going on.
Absolutely. We're going to keep pushing on this and pushing on this.
Well, and as a reporter for years, the significance of this story, just, why should taxpayers care about this?
For a lot of reasons. One of the biggest is, we obviously want our homes in the city to be up to code, to be safe, and if we have deteriorating buildings, it brings down the tax values of the entire neighborhood, and not to mention it's just not a desirable place to live in that neighborhood. But also, when we give forgiveness on somebody's debt, that is money that could be spent by the city and could be providing tax relief to other people. So basically, when somebody doesn't pay, somebody else does pay, and that's very disturbing.
Scott Reeder, you can find his report in the Illinois Times, free on newsstands today. The title of that, Debts and Donations. So go check that out. Actually,
Greg, it's you can find it today on the website, and tomorrow it'll be on the newsstands.
Oh, wait, tomorrow's Thursday?
That's right.
Today's not Thursday?
Today is not Thursday. Today is Wednesday. So if you want to read this story, you can read it online today,
yes.
But tomorrow you can read it on the newsstands.
I'm so sorry. That tells you how much I hope tomorrow is Friday. That's really that's the motivation of me thinking today was Thursday, because I really want tomorrow to be Friday.
Well, so I can tell you, Greg, having worked with you over the years, you've never been a person that's a thank goodness it's Friday person. You are one of the hardest workers I know.
I appreciate that, Scott. Hey, we'll talk again soon, all right? Okay. Be safe. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's news and